Self-love. Learn how to love yourself unconditionally. Written by Lisa Hurd. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Chapter 1. How do you specify self-love? What does it really mean to love yourself? How do you do that? A list of prototypical acts of self-soothing might help specify what people mean by self-love. Take a slow, hot bath. Eat some cake for a change. Go for a walk without a destination. These acts seem a lot like practicing patience. Perhaps loving yourself, specifically these days when people are asked to work a lot of hours every day, typically includes slowing down. Simply because working so much means subordinating or hiding the passive side of ourselves, we need to recapture that side of self through a bit of self-love. In this form, self-love can look like indulgence or getting away from the pressure of work. Or do you ever really love yourself by speeding up? Dance without self-consciousness. Be assertive with an employer without stressing over how you sound. Go out very late. If your moment of self-love came through accelerating, perhaps it's because you've been rejecting a very different part of the self. You have dealt with the brakes on, and you deserve to let the monster out now, to take risks, to have less fear. Perhaps self-love is just finding that side of the self which has been shut down and allowing it to roam for a while. Or maybe self-love is more like a break from self-judgment. When I do something nice for myself, I can feel just as if I'm taking weights off my shoulders, that I was not even mindful I was carrying. Everything ends up being lighter and clearer. Perhaps lightness is like an escape from judgment, from feeling unworthy, guilty, or behind the game in some way. Here are a few examples of self-love through decreased self-blame. I call my work today good enough. I dress sexy and believe that I am. I know that I've already done enough in my life to feel proud. However, what is self-love for you? Slowing down? Letting the beast out? Getting away from blame? Or what else? What specifies being good to yourself? Chapter 2. What self-love is not. All too often, we seek love from others before looking within. Even so, many are starting to turn that focus inward as they ponder the meaning and purpose of self-love. Though not a new term, the principle of self-love has been acquiring popularity in the last few years. Many are beginning to see the relationship between self-love and mental wellness. Even more, people are questioning the situations in which we could really even need love from ourselves as much, and maybe more than we do from others. Frequently during this evaluation, self-love criticism arises, although these appraisals are based on misinterpretations. To help clarify, let's be clear on what self-love is not, because there are a lot of those myths out there, and some people just don't get it. Entitlement. When an individual has a sense of entitlement or a spoiled attitude, they could believe they're unconditionally owed something, despite efforts, merit, or context. This should not be confused with the idea of recognizing your worth. Depending on your perspective on humbleness and deservingness, you may find it difficult to assert that you deserve self-love. If this holds true, it might be handy to consider fundamental human needs. One could say that empathy, care, and approval are as fundamental as water, food, or shelter. Thus, recognize that your worth and need for self-love generally is not that ludicrous to seek. Self-love isn't about why you are worthy of $1 million, an elegant yacht, or an estate. It isn't an overtly ambitious dive. It isn't elite or unique, but a core aspect of humankind. Selfishness. Focusing on self-love is not the pathway to fixation. Even though self-love is a reflective process in which one turns their energy inward, the advantages aren't selfish. In truth, so as to care for others efficiently, one should first look after themselves. Prior to taking off on a plane, the flight attendant guarantees the passengers that in case of an emergency, regardless of who your neighbors are, it is critical to put on your own oxygen mask first before helping others. We wouldn't dare tell a person who complies with this regulation that they're really selfish. Similarly, you can't pour from an empty cup. Self-focus is not egocentric. Eventually, self-focus helps you and other people. In addition, while narcissism could be shallow and vain, self-love is quite the opposite. Self-love dives beyond the surface area and isn't all rainbows and unicorns along the way. Together with recognizing your worth, needs, and goals, self-love requires the bravery to differentiate your weak points, difficulties, and barriers. Because of that, self-love necessitates humbleness, empathy, and concern for the self and for others. Sinful. A sin is an act that isn't only inappropriate, but typically violent. Self-love is definitely the opposite. Self-love is not supposed to go against a concept or moral grounding. It is the informed journey to take care of yourself, to trigger a cause and effect of care and compassion for the people around you. Nevertheless, due to varying ideas of what self-love truly involves, from time to time, individuals could see self-love as protesting their values and beliefs. Just as everybody is unique, their analysis of faith may differ too. If you are struggling with separating self-love from sin, it may be valuable for you to research and review whether or not a conflict truly exists. Despite your faith or belief system, it could be worthwhile to consider the commonalities in various world faiths. Usually, the jobs encapsulated with being a moral person include altruism, forgiveness, and personal growth, all of which align well with the practice of self-love. More particularly, the golden rule of treating others as you want to be treated is the essence of self-love. From this typical saying, we usually jump to the lesson to deal with others kindly. But we should not forget the ramification that it means being kind to ourselves also. An excuse. Self-love is an active, engaged process that evokes a wealth of positive advantages. However, the journey is not always a simple one. A very critical part of self-love is acknowledging your limitations, needs, and worth, and asserting intrapersonal and social limits as needed to uphold them. While this all-encompassing process might include mental health days, massages, and delighting in your preferred home-cooked meal, it isn't an exploitation of all the things that are positive. Paradoxically, perpetual indulging could actually be neglectful and, for this reason, distinct from self-love. The complete process of self-love includes the good, the bad, and the ugly. Beyond the stereotypically positive perks, self-love also includes the decision to recognize your parts for development, tailoring a possibly tough yet needed plan of attack, and bravely tackling it head-on. To an outsider without context, self-love could appear as an excuse. However, it is crucial that you do not make use of self-love as some hall pass to get away from responsibility and difficult situations in general. On the other hand, real self-love can be enacted by taking responsibility as you courageously start strenuous courses. The process of self-love begins with the mere task of being able to really appreciate you for who you are. It is important to be kind and thoughtful toward yourself. Nevertheless, self-love is more than just a belief. Beyond your ability to tend to yourself, you must remember that self-love is a deliberate practice to learn and cultivate. Self-love offers you the opportunity to see yourself totally, to recognize and value your strengths and weak points, victories and obstacles. With a focus on the self, this journey is eventually an independent one. Though it is valuable to unite with others who are on a comparable path, at the end of the day, self-growth is predominantly dependent on personal effort. The process of loving oneself is a subjective experience. Just because a suggestion has worked for many doesn't mean it will work for all. Honor your individuality as you find your definition of self-love. Chapter 3. Selfish, narcissistic, and conceited? Self-love can seem like New Age babble connected to the millennials' fascination with selfies and sharing their lives on social media. This couldn't be farther from the truth. Sure, there are aspects of the self that are sometimes taken a bit too far on social media, but contrary to common belief, this has got nothing to do with self-love. Let's take a look at why. Myth. Self-love is a New Age principle brought forward through selfies and social networks. Truth. Self-love has been around since ancient Greek philosophy, around 350 BC. Self-love goes back as far as Aristotle. He clarified how he really believed one must not solely really love oneself, but to love oneself most of all. He really believed that self-love was a prerequisite to loving others. This discussion around self-love has continued ever since through philosophers and psychologists alike. In the more modern-day years, it was Erich Fromm from the 1950s who tied self-love to a healthy sense of self-esteem and self-respect. Myth. Self-love makes you self-centered, narcissistic, and conceited. Truth. Self-love makes you more positive, confident, and resistant. As a matter of fact, narcissism and arrogance are both signs of a deep lack of confidence, self-acceptance, and self-love. Self-love isn't about you ignoring everybody else's needs, being extremely obsessed with yourself and everything you do, or behaving like you are the queen or king of the world. Instead, it's about having a more positive relationship with yourself, in which you look after yourself, support yourself, and believe in yourself. It makes you more resilient against obstacles and keeps you motivated in working towards your dreams, because you believe in them and in your capabilities. Self-love removes your patterns of negative self-talk and replaces them with vibrant self-confidence. Myth. There is no science behind self-love. Truth. There are a lot of ideas, specifically in positive psychology, that link to self-love. Self-love is inherently linked to self-confidence, which Adler and Stewart, 2004, specify as values, approves of, prizes, or likes him or herself. Then there's the concept of self-enhancement, which is all about taking a positive view of oneself. If we look at popular self-help streams, Brené Brown's work on vulnerability and bravery also connects closely. In a general sense, self-love both supports and is supported by credibility, confidence, growth, and a positive state of mind, just among others. Myth. Self-love is essentially self-care. Truth. Self-care is one way of practicing self-love. When you really love yourself fully, you take better care of yourself, both physically and mentally. That is clear. Nonetheless, acts of self-care, such as taking a hot bath, having a massage, practicing yoga, or walking in nature, aren't the only ways to practice self-love. Self-love goes far more in-depth than that, and it is all about accepting and fully appreciating yourself, with all your positive traits completely. It is more than just an act, but a deeply rooted belief that drives your acceptance of yourself. Self-care does help you to experience more self-love and vice versa. Myth. Self-love is all about showing to the world that you really love yourself. Truth. Self-love is about believing in yourself and treating yourself with love. You do not need to publish selfies to show that you love yourself. In fact, you don't really need to tell anybody about it. Nonetheless, your actions and thoughts should reflect the love that you feel to yourself. To help you begin, here are 3 ways you can practice self-love. 1. Understand how you talk to yourself. It's easy to lose control of the little inner critic that sits within you. The best way to avoid this from going on is to end up being conscious of it. Do not fight it or get angry with it. Rather, talk with it with love and compassion. Ask yourself, is this something I would say to my best friend? And how can I put a positive and encouraging spin on this? The more you do that, the easier it becomes. 2. Be kind toward your body. Speak to it and treat it as though it was a person you love. Don't use exercise as a penalty, but as something that gets the positive endorphins going. Be sure to find an activity you enjoy doing and look forward to doing, instead of something you fear. Talk to your body positively too, and routinely express appreciation to your preferred parts. It may not be flawless, and there could be bits you want to improve, but it is a splendid temple keeping you alive here on planet Earth. 3. Learn to get compliments with grace. If a person compliments you, smile and say thank you. That may sound silly, and maybe you already do this, but there is a remarkably high number of people who have a problem with this. I used to be one of those people too. Fortunately, today, I accept them, I cherish them, and I believe them. You should too. Something that can help you with this is to also get even better at offering compliments. It's fun and satisfying and gets good energy into each interaction. Chapter 4. What is the self anyhow? In case you are self-obsessed, you are definitely not alone. All of us matter to ourselves a lot, and yet for all our self-interest, we actually haven't ever had a strong sense of selfhood. Here are 15 well-known concepts, old and new, spiritual and pseudoscientific, about what a self is and who has got one, followed by the clearest science I've found on the topic. 1. Your spirit. You've got a body, but you are a spirit or soul separate from all that blood and gut physical matter. Spirits have power to change physical things, but they are not physical themselves. They're from a completely different realm. So how do they work? That's a lovely mystery. Just don't try to answer that question. 2. God's spirit transported. God, or the higher power, is the one true self, the spirit in the sky, certainly from another world. He doesn't just move matter, he willed matter into being. As the master self, he decided to create you as a self too. He could have made you any way he wanted, but willed to give you a will of your own. 3. No self. You think you're a self, but it is all in your mind. There are no selves. Every little thing is just matter moving. When you feel yourself from thinking of yourself as a self, you'll enjoy yourself more. Well, at the very least, that's one way to state it. 4. Central receiver. Your self is the nerve center at the center of all of the emotional and psychological action. You are the feeler, the thinker, the news getter. That's you in the spotlight. 5. A local god. You are your goals, commitments, faiths and dedications, the things you want. And with the law of attraction, you can accomplish so much if you are going to be into it and if you are being hard enough on yourself. 6. Your DNA. DNA is a chemical that copies itself like other chemicals do. However, in some way, this replicator has collected all sorts of ornamentation to make itself copy better. So you are either your DNA or you are only its ornamentation and nothing more. If you're the ornamentation, then yourself is simply a chemical's way of making more of itself anyway. 7. Your ego. Self is a greedy impression that makes you selfish, when you should be generous. Whenever you do things for yourself, you're indulgent. Shame on you. If we could all just get over ourselves, we'd want to sacrifice everything for each other, and then no one would ever need to sacrifice anything, and the world would be a much happier place. 8. The only true thing. The world is an illusion. The self decides on the illusory world it wishes for and makes it so. Because of this, the only thing that can change or has to really change is your beliefs. Whatever your self actually believes is made true just by you believing in it. 9. Your gullibility. Humans are selves, but other organisms aren't. Descartes mentioned that plants and animals are simply machines, but you are a self simply because you can think. He made attempts to find out if there was anything we couldn't be deceived about, and chose it was, I think, for that reason I am a self, by which he meant the fact that we can be fooled into thinking the wrong things prove we exist as conscious thinking selves. To which Thomas Hobbes said, and this is a leap, dear Descartes. You think, therefore, all we know is that matter is capable of thinking. 10. Heavy devices operator. You're the man inside your head running things. You have got monitors and levers. You're the captain of the spaceship that is you. However, wait, who runs the captain? Does he have a captain in his head as well? 11. No self again, 'cause we've looked. The researchers have looked high and low, and all they find are chemical mechanisms. No spaceship captain, just physics and chemistry doing the exact same kind of stuff they do elsewhere. There is no self, and not just because it's healing for yourself to believe it, but just because we can't find it. 12. Selves have special powers. Selves have these powers above and beyond physical domino effect. They are not spiritual or magic, just daily powers like desire, appetite, the pursuit of happiness, and the desire for success. Those immaterial powers can move matter. So yeah, when the cue ball hits the 8 ball, that is just physics. But why into the corner pocket? Because the pool shark wanted it to go there. Selves can just do that sort of thing, like move matter with will. 13. Your self-awareness. Selves are things that know that they are selves. Banana slugs do not know that they are selves, but you know you're a self, so you are one. 14. Robot. The self is a hardwired computer system with peripheral devices. Because we are just computers, then computers are like us. Get enough physical cause and effect working elaborately together, and you have got a self, whether it is a computer system or a living being. Storms aren't selves, despite the fact that there are a lot of physical cause and effect working intricately together, too. Why? Who knows, right? 15. Quantum consciousness. Quantum mechanics and mindful selfhood are both magic-like secrets, so they should be the same thing. In both, we see spontaneous behavior that seems to transcend domino effect. so your self's free will must be brought on by quantum liberty. Never mind that we don't see anything like will in quantum behavior, and we can't help but see selves as willful, wanting, pursuing things that matter to them. Disregard that, and you can pretend that the conscious self is just quantum mechanics. Chapter 5. Self-love to become an even better parent. Day in and day out, deadlines, schedules, financial pressures, and social needs collide with the work of raising kids, who test the difficulty as much as they intrigue. Difficult societal pressures ask us to be high-achieving, devoted workers, partners, and parents or caretakers, but can often leave us feeling like failures. Depression, anxiety, solitude, exhaustion, and bitterness too frequently define our lives and negatively impact our capability to parent with joy and confidence. Raising kids is really difficult, yet a practice of self-love enables us to ride the challenges and really experience the pleasures of parenthood. Here are some techniques to give yourself the gift of self-love. You and your children definitely deserve it, because they will sense it too if you hate yourself or if you lack self-esteem. 1. Prioritize self-care and sleep. Exhaustion and absence of self-care are typically the trademarks of parenting, but they don't need to be. To the best of your capability, give yourself the same care that you give your kids. Regarding healthy food, sleep, and exercise, compromising self-care is just one of the absolute worst things you can do as a caretaker, not only concerning role modeling, but also simply because it's a direct affront to your parenting skills. Exhausted, strung out, and ill parents or caretakers experience a host of negative emotions that can be harmful to your family. 2. Acknowledge psychological trauma. Psychological injuries are just as important to resolve as physical wounds. A profound step towards self-love is psychological healing. Refusing to handle past pain is dangerous, as raising children will inevitably set off old injuries. Comprehending and healing our psychological pain is the ultimate expression of self-love. If you don't know what has to be fixed, then you don't know what to focus on. 3. Cultivate optimism. Do you have a downhearted side? Always fearing or expecting the worst produces anxious parenting. Going for a more positive approach could require retraining your brain, but it's worth it. Start to bear in mind of when your negative thinking was wrong and begin seeing positive actions and results. Believing in yourself and others will spread optimism and delight to your kids. 4. Give yourself praise. Children push us to our limits, invoking emotions of inadequacy. Rather than telling yourself that you're screwing up, shift your focus on what's working out. Spend a little bit of time every day focusing on what you are offering your kid and how well you're doing. Give yourself compliments for little achievements. By entering into a routine of applauding yourself, you can reduce the unnecessary guilt that so many of us parents experience. 5. Forgive yourself. Everybody burns out and is cranky sometimes, and every parent says things that they wish they could reclaim. Aim to be as forgiving with yourself as you are with others. Appreciation and forgiveness are important to any healthy relationship, even your relationship with yourself. 6. Focus on gratitude. The power of gratitude could have become a social media cliché, but this crucial part of self-love should not be disregarded. Children offer numerous reasons to be grateful, including their health, accomplishments, and unconditional love. Being thankful broadens our wellness and self-worth. You should try ending every day with a nod to appreciation and see the benefits. 7. Establish benefits and extravagances. Parenting is pretty difficult, so set up some rewards and extravagances along the way. Maybe an evening out as a reward for potty training or helping your kid through midterms. Every Mother's Day, I eagerly anticipated purchasing a new pair of shoes for the spring. It is a ritual pointer that my work really deserves recognition. Raising children can be an unrewarding task. You might ruin yourself a little bit. Most people do. 8. Let go of far-fetched goals. Are you holding yourself to an unreachable goal? Setting yourself up for failure is the exact opposite of self-love. Just getting your kids dressed and to school on time can be a challenge. Add the additional burden of extracurricular activities, staying healthy, work pressures, and you've got an untenable situation. Compromises may need to be made to your goals so that you're not running rough and failing yourself and your kids. Schedules and the work and family balance are always an operation in progress, so you should show yourself some love by tipping the scales in favor of success. 9. Get used to saying no to people. A lot of us parents or caregivers want to be good people and well-liked, so we feel pressure to take on tasks and obligations that we actually don't have the time or energy for. Always saying yes may make you more popular, but it can come at the cost of your pleasure and well-being. Give yourself the gift of additional time and energy. Real delight comes from actions that are self-directed and unattached to obligation. 10. Schedule experiences. Escaping our day-to-day routine yields exceptional psychological advantages for you and your children. Natural landscapes have been proven to reduce tension. Disconnect, get outside, breathe, and check out nature's beauty, whether it is at the beach or in a city park. Your kids will really love you for it, but what matters even more is that when you immerse yourself in a new experience, you'll better appreciate your own worth without the stress and mayhem of life. Tons of us wish these gifts of self-love upon our children, but fail to emulate them. Rather than simply wishing them for your kids, it would be better to show them how it's done. The rewards will overflow as you and your kids reap the bounty of self-worth, well-being, and self-love. Chapter 6. The Top 10 Most Reliable Steps to Self-Love. I thought that self-love meant being the prettiest I can be, showing a facade of excellence to the world on social media, and rejecting any of my hidden fears and doubts. As you may have guessed, I was so very wrong. Self-love begins and ends internally. It cannot be contingent on how others feel about us, what they think of us, or what they say about us. Recognition from others is addicting. We can become unhealthily reliant on it. Remember that self-love can only be cultivated from within. Here is how you do that. 1. To have self-confidence, start by doing good things. This may sound simple, but it is only when we bring a level of consciousness to the disparities in our values and actions that we really become mindful of how out of balance these two can be. I can mean well, but actively chatter. I can believe in honesty, but lie to my peers. If my insides and my outsides aren't aligned, I can't and will not feel good about myself. This is called cognitive dissonance. 2. Acknowledge all parts of yourself. Even and specifically the parts that you would rather hide. Shed some light on them, your emotions, your fears, your body, your voice. Everything that makes you the way you are. A book that could help you take this step is Braving the Wilderness by Brené Brown. 3. Affirmations. At first, I thought that this was corny and weird, But since about 2015 or so, I have been documenting I am declarations. I am gorgeous. I am competent. I am passionate. I am enough, etc. When I change my internal narrative, I change the way I see myself. I am going to find what I am searching for. This means that if I am looking for proof that I am inadequate, I am going to find it. Then again, if I'm searching for evidence that I am worthy of love and belonging, I will find that also. 4. Speak your truth. We can move into the practice of deflecting from our truth on a regular basis. Did you really like that film? Have you really heard of that band? If you're upset or mad, are you able to articulate how you feel and tell another individual? You should try to deconstruct the things that are blocking you from speaking your truth, such as being afraid, pleasing others, etc. 5. Daily inventories. Although this is one of the 12 steps, I have observed that those of us in recovery rarely do it correctly. We are not entirely meant to recognize or make a note of where we were resentful, selfish, dishonest, or afraid, but also identify where we succeeded and what we packed into the stream of life that day. The 10th step advises us not to be martyrs, but we usually concentrate on where we failed instead of also including our success. Therefore, before you go to sleep late at night, make a psychological or physical inventory of your strengths and wins for that day, and the things you'd like to improve. 6. Get in touch with the ones that feed your soul. Do your good friends accept you for who you are, but do they also challenge you to keep growing? Are you able to satisfy your natural human need for connection with the people in your life? Or are you like a star on stage, wearing different masks and outfits throughout the day? Some people are like that, but the question to you is, would you be comfortable doing that? Or does that go against your conscience? Or perhaps only in certain situations? 7. Cultivate appreciation. A yoga instructor said to me one time, "Happiness does not lead to appreciation. Appreciation results in happiness." This is also true of internal joy and self-love. What are you grateful for about yourself today? And what could you be more grateful for, like something that you're currently taking for granted? 8. Practice empathy and forgiveness. Yeah, it is necessary to practice this with others. But can you also practice it internally? You are human. You will fail. You will make errors. However, more importantly, what's the story you tell yourself about your mistakes? Can you cultivate non-critical awareness inwardly and forgive yourself while also staying accountable on a daily, even moment-to-moment basis? 9. Learn to laugh at yourself. Going along the lines of self-compassion, try to integrate humor into your internal narrative. Instead of, "Why can't I do anything right?" or "I hate my body," I invite you to make fun of your human side. Almost all of us are pursuing this castle in the air of perfection. What's true, however, is that we connect through our imperfections, our humanity. 10. Be of service. Each time we step beyond ourselves and into the arena of helping another, in any capacity, we keep saying to ourselves that we have something to offer others, that we are enough, and that we can make a difference. Be mindful not to slip into caretaking and attempting to save others. We can only control our own actions and reactions. But we can show up, be a light, instill hope, and be practical. And in doing that, we set ourselves free in a sense. These are 10 easy steps, but as people, we tend to complexify the hell out of them. I motivate you to discuss these steps in therapy. Enable others to help you deconstruct whatever is obstructing you from self-love. And try to connect with people who bring you closer to your ideal, instead of the ones that keep you living in cognitive dissonance. And, as usual, you should remember, you are worth it. You are good enough. You are complete. Chapter 7. What we get wrong about children's self-confidence. I cannot do anything right. No one likes me. I'm the absolute worst kid in the whole world. As parents or caretakers, hearing the kids we love make such viciously self-critical remarks is heartbreaking. Our primary instinct is to rush to oppose them. "That's not really true, honey," we exclaim. Trying to assure our kids of the truth, we quickly marshal example after example of their skills and how special they are. But the more we tell our self-doubting kids, "You are wonderful," the harder they argue, "I'm dreadful." No matter how sincere and well-meaning our pep talks are, they simply never really appear to sink in when our children are having a problem with low self-esteem. We don't need to love ourselves. Self-help masters and inspirational short articles usually promote the idea that we need to love ourselves to have a happy, satisfying life. That is nonsense. How many people honestly stand in front of a mirror and think, "I love myself"? And if they do, would you want to be good friends with those people? Most likely not. Realistically, it makes a lot of sense that children who feel better about themselves ought to do better in life. But that is not what research finds. Roy Baumeister at Florida State University and his associates, Baumeister, Campbell, and Krieger, conducted a really thorough research review and concluded that higher self-confidence does not trigger better school efficiency. It doesn't stop children from smoking, drinking, using drugs, or taking part in early sexual activity. High self-confidence also doesn't result in healthier relationships. Safeguarding kids' self-esteem can backfire. When kids focus on protecting or increasing their self-esteem, it can backfire and set them up for failure. Imagine a student who's afraid that she will not do so well on a test. A healthy coping strategy would be to begin studying early, so she has a lot of time to look at old quizzes and homework projects and ask for extra help from the teacher. But if the student is focused on safeguarding her self-confidence, she will not do any of those because she won't want to look or feel stupid. Rather, she will postpone studying until the 11th hour. Then, if she performs badly on the test, she can safeguard her self-confidence by telling herself, "I didn't have enough time to study. I could have done better if I tried." Jennifer Crocker and her colleagues at the University of Michigan, Crocker, Moeller, and Burson, 2010, and Crocker and Park, 2004, explains so many self-defeating strategies to guard self-confidence, including being a cheater, lying, hiding mistakes, making bad excuses, avoiding difficulties, blaming or looking down on others, and responding angrily to criticism. Attempting to look good can sometimes highlight the absolute worst in people. Why self-confidence matters. Therefore, if pursuing and protecting self-confidence tends to backfire, does this mean we should desert the whole idea of self-confidence? No. We know from long-lasting research studies that low self-esteem can be a risk factor for becoming depressed and having binge-eating conditions. A research study by Ulrich Orth at the University of Bern and his colleagues proves that low self-confidence isn't just a symptom of depression. It predicts and precedes depression at all ages, from childhood onwards. Low self-esteem can also be extremely emotionally painful. When children dislike themselves, the suffering can feel intense, pervasive, and unavoidable. Self-esteem-enhancing strategies don't work. Many of the obvious methods for attempting to help children with low self-esteem just plain don't work. This could be Telling children they are terrific can make kids with low self-confidence feel even worse. In one study, Eddie Brummelman at Utrecht University and his colleagues had kids play a computer game. First of all, they did a non-competitive practice round, after which some children got a text message telling them, "Wow, you're great." Next, the kids played the game. Amongst kids who lost the video game, those who had been told, "You're great," before the defeat, felt more ashamed than children who hadn't been given this praise. That effect was especially noticeable for children with low self-esteem. Hearing they were great set the children up with low self-confidence to feel useless, inferior, and exposed, when their actions didn't live up to the appreciation they had received previously. What about having children tell themselves positive statements? Saying really positive things to themselves can actually make children with low self-esteem feel bad about themselves, simply because they become acutely familiar with how much they do not gauge up to the positive declaration. A study by Joanne Wood, including college students, showed that prompting students with low self-esteem to repeat to themselves the statement, "I'm an adorable individual," or to focus on how that statement was true, made their moods even worse, instead of better, and made them feel less happy with themselves. Instead of boosting their self-esteem, this positive self-statement ended up highlighting and validating their belief that they are not worthy of love. Perhaps kids with low self-esteem need to experience success to feel better about themselves. No, not at all. Children with low self-confidence are specialists at dismissing and discounting their victories. They pick apart their efficiency, insisting, "It wasn't that good. Anyone could have done it. And besides, I messed up that one area." Another research study by Joanne Wood realized that those with low self-confidence feel more restless after a victory than a defeat. They expected the defeat, but the triumph seems unexpected and hazardous. Success typically doesn't permeate low self-confidence because it's hard to soak up and it feels threatening. Carrying out well tends to make kids with low self-confidence stress that they will not have the ability to maintain this efficiency, or that people will now expect too much of them, or that others are now paying more attention to them, so that their unavoidable future letdowns will result in even more public humiliation. Wood calls this snatching defeat from the jaws of success. The main cause that all of these strategies for boosting self-confidence doesn't work is because they involve increased self-focus. They encourage children with low self-confidence to think of and assess themselves, which they always do harshly. Self-focus magnifies negative feelings and makes kids with low self-esteem feel worse. What true self-confidence appears like. The key to breaking free from low self-esteem is to move past self-focus. Real self-confidence isn't about believing we're unique or fantastic. Real self-esteem means having the ability to let go of the question, "Am I good enough?" Think of how you feel when you get together with a friend. Your friend knows you, warts and all, but you're not just sitting there wondering, "Does my friend like me?" Or, "Is my friend impressed by me?" And even, "Is my good friend going to discard me?" Those questions do not even turn up because you're not thinking about yourself. Rather, you're completely focused on the discussion or activity with this friend, which brings a rewarding sense of ease and comfort. True self-confidence involves developing this kind of completely engaged presence in what we are doing now. When we are not psychologically standing back and judging ourselves, we are free to listen and learn and try and experience and do and care. The way forward. After learning about all of this, how do we help kids with low self-esteem step beyond self-focus so they can let go of their severe self-evaluations? Substantial research by Richard Ryan and Edward Deci at the University of Rochester indicates that the key depends on addressing kids' basic needs for connection, competence, and choice. Connection includes structuring meaningful and satisfying relationships that develop a sense of belonging. Competence refers to embracing learning and developing mastery. Choice is all about making choices that reflect personal values. We do not really need to enhance our children's self-esteem. Instead, we want to alleviate the severe self-focus that is the root cause of low self-esteem by helping them connect with something larger than themselves. Chapter 8. The most important element to self-confidence. For a long time in this culture, it has been the habit for teachers to make children feel good about themselves for no specific reason. That practice, which is not backed by any evidence, is based upon the premise that high self-esteem causes high accomplishment. Accordingly, individuals in spelling bees and sporting events all come away with prizes so that nobody feels bad about not measuring up. In the class, students read titles like "Everyone is Unique" and complete "Everything About Me" projects that showcase their finer qualities. Educators stay away from criticism and make sure not to tie praise to performance. The problem with gold stars, rewards for everyone, and other bribes, though, is that they don't work. Instead of boosting achievement, the practice simply motivates individuals to accrue more rewards and imparts a sense of privilege. I should have to be rewarded for nothing. Previous DC school superintendent, Michelle Ray, Tiger Mom, recently said something about the "everyone is a winner" pattern by keeping in mind that her daughter's spaces are covered with ribbons, medals, and prizes. Yet, I consistently tell my children that their soccer skills are terrible, and that if they want to be good at it, they have to practice more. But that still will not ensure that they will ever really be good at soccer. It is difficult to square this with the trophies. Though well-intended, research shows that the self-esteem movement has hobbled the millennial generation. The practice of unearned appreciation hinders learning, and giving an A for effort only has success in giving students an inflated sense of their capabilities. A 2007 Los Angeles Times report on worldwide student assessments across 30 nations, titled F in Science, A in Self-Confidence, showed that American students ranked 21st in science and 25th in mathematics, prompting specialists to announce that Americans are unprepared to compete in the international economy. Not able to recognize their own lack of knowledge. Despite their disappointing efficiency, American young people aren't bothered by their lack of knowledge. Actually, they don't admit to their errors or get that they don't know nearly as much as their peers in Finland, Canada, New Zealand, or Great Britain, although they think they do. They are hooked on appreciation instead. According to a current paper in the Journal of Personality, young adults prefer a boost to self-esteem over sex, food, drinking, and practically any other satisfying outlet. Should they really need a pat on the back, there's a mobile phone app called iFlatter that will brighten your day, make you laugh, and enhance your confidence, despite your actual knowledge and skill set. High self-confidence has no assurance of success. Competition is a reality of life, and yet the fear of making anybody feel bad has crept up the ladder to adult concerns. It's seen, for example, in the Academy Awards, in which the time-worn phrase, "and the winner is," has given way to the dull but political right, "and the award goes to." The zero-sum premise is that every winner demands a loser, and that personal accomplishment only comes at the expense of somebody else. This is rubbish, but the thinking persists and would be merely annoying if its impacts weren't so destructive. Kay Heimowitz wrote in the Wall Street Journal about the 15,000 studies that the movement has created. And what do they show, she asks? That high self-confidence doesn't improve grades, reduce antisocial conduct, hinder alcohol drinking, or do much of anything helpful for kids. Actually, telling kids how clever they are can be disadvantageous. Many kids who are convinced that they are little geniuses tend not to put much effort into their work. Other people are troubled by the hidden anxiety of grown-ups who feel the need to praise them constantly. To get self-esteem, do things that matter. The solution to this muddle is actually simple. If you want self-esteem, then do things that matter. Accomplishments and know-how cannot be handed out or downloaded into somebody's brain, like they are for the characters in The Matrix. They must be earned through individual effort. It is the venture that produces a sense of pride and inward esteem. Imagine handing an angler a reward catch. You may think you're doing him a favor and saving him the trouble, but you are robbing him of the pleasure instead. An angler wants to catch his own fish, not be given one. It would destroy the whole purpose. We want to be rewarded for our efforts, even though we don't always admit it. Many psychological research studies have validated that fulfillment comes from within. While it feels good to be rewarded, the glow of the dopamine rush is usually short-lived and doesn't produce enduring change in a person's state of mind or behavior. After the thrill of winning, for example, lottery and Nobel winners revert to their prior temperaments. A look at accomplished individuals who frequently win awards and medals show that they are driven by the effort rather than the outcome. It's the aiming rather than the benefit that is long-lived. Furthermore, the knowledge of a person's capability is continually pleasing throughout a person's life. Self-esteem feels great just because it contacts the emotion of pride. Pride, in turn, arises from somebody's sense of confidence and capability. Esteem and related feelings impart a sense of success and the confidence that you can achieve whatever you set out to do. In addition, the feeling is fun. She always seems to love whatever she's doing, people say. Attaining such a state, though, is not possible without some self-discipline. By your own effort. Like capitalism, whose riches can exist without the threat of personal bankruptcy, or paradise without the possibility of hell, self-effort must want to risk failure. Failure, when it happens, is never, ever the end of the world, and developing a tolerance for rejection builds up the bravery to put many opportunities into practice, understanding that only some will achieve fruition. The benefit of such a method is that it assures a consistent string of positive results. When people set back, as everybody is from time to time, you will have the ability to choose yourself up. You will have the ability to build yourself up and try again, or else move on to something new. Repeated accomplishment strengthens itself by cultivating a frame of mind that expects success. To observers, it might look like you have fantastic luck, but they'd be wrong. The circumstantial luck of fortune is passive and uncaused. What circulations from effort, acting upon opportunity, and following through is resultant luck. As Thomas Jefferson put it, "I'm a big believer in luck, and I have noticed that the more I work, the more I have of it." This has been Self-Love. Learn how to love yourself unconditionally. Written by Lisa Hurd. Narrated by Samantha Novak. Copyright year 2020 by Lisa Hurd. Production copyright by Lisa Hurd.